Well, hey, welcome to the Gundam Explained show live. I'm your host, Adam Blue. Joining me as always, Steven with the Disney shirt. Just noticed. That's nice.
Yeah, I guess I'm wearing the costume of the enemy here, the
Oh,
uniform of my enemies. No,
well,
honestly, this shirt has a lot of fond memories for me. Because the last time I went to Disney World was in 2016, which was it was the year that I graduated from grad school and got married. And as a gift to my wife, who had never been to Disney World at that point, I was like, "Hey, thank you for putting up with me while I was going through grad school. Let's go to Disney World and drink around Epcot and like, do all the
wow.
good stuff." So this shirt came from that trip.
Okay, I can see why. Yeah, that's meaningful. That's
Sentimental
pretty cool.
value. So yeah, ever since,
That's
obviously things that they've done with Star Wars make me feel icky
right.
wearing it,
I
but
know.
then I'm like,
It's
but
funny.
I had
I
such a
had
good time with
this.
my wife.
Well, it's funny. I had this conversation twice with two different people this week. I forgot what it was, but it's like where we appreciate some things corporations are doing, even though we can recognize the bad choices when sometimes it revolves around the money, what they want to do with the money. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that Disney's always gotten right though, I think, is the theme parks.
yeah, I mean, it is magical. There is something about when I was a kid, when I went, I loved it. And then even when I went recently, in fact, I keep a photo on my desk of the family when we went to Disney, and just even that, it's because you're seeing, it's almost like being on a movie set.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, because everything around you is fake. Even like the wall of the restaurant is like a fake wall of a restaurant.
Exactly right. Um, and so much of it, I think, it's got this surreal aspect to it where, you're going to this looks like a tavern, right? It's like, reclaimed wood and these bar stools and things like that. And you're going to have yourself an Italian flatbread, which is really just cafeteria pizza. That's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a fascinating experience. How did your kids like it?
Oh yeah, they liked it. I
Well, yeah,
mean,
I mean,
it's I think what's interesting is the thinking of the balance between like roller coasters versus like entertainment attractions. And the roller coasters at first seemed like the fun thing to do, but like, especially like Tower of Terror, how it drops, they weren't crazy about that. And they were like, rather, go do the fun things around there. Even the older ones, it's, and even I kind of felt that too. The merch, there's something about being surrounded by like exclusive merch that
yeah.
you don't see anywhere else. And it kind of
See,
gets,
that's something that, like, I think that the Gundam base needs to take advantage of, is, like, there needs to be when there's a Gundam base type pop-up or something like that. I think the problem is that it's not quite exclusive enough of an experience. And this goes
yeah,
back to what we were talking about last night where, I mentioned watching Vampy Bit Me doing the beta card game unboxing. And, there was a lot of FOMO involved with that because obviously you and I missed out on getting that.
yeah.
But seeing what was in it, it's like, well, there's really not a whole lot in it that I would really want. So it kind of diffuses the magic of that experience. And so I wonder, I don't know, it can go either way, right? Like you either want it
Yeah.
accessible to everyone so that everyone can enjoy it, or you want it limited to where people, have to partake in this particular experience that you want to cultivate.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good point bringing up the stuff around that because what makes Disney magical is for some, depending where you live, the traveling to get there.
Yeah,
It's like
there's a
that journey.
pilgrimage.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like
Yeah,
worth it. And then that's I guess that's another aspect that makes Disney work is there is effort to get there, but then when you get there, it's still like that was worth doing. And so yeah, Gundam doing something like that, but it's interesting. Nintendo, they have a Nintendo Land. I think it's in California, and
yeah,
then there's one that's being built right now just north of me, less than an hour away. And,
that's so cool.
and that is, and so they have like that Minecraft experience that's been going around. There was one here, and I should have went, and I missed it. So I feel like these live attractions are a thing, but I do think there is a sort of barrier to entry. Like it could be
There is.
distance, but if there was a way, and I think this is cheating, but it might be virtual reality. What if company is able to build a way to have a virtual experience in a real attraction and maybe meet up with other people. I don't know.
Yeah, during COVID, one of my favorite music artists, Porter Robinson, did I guess it was like the Second Sky Festival. So he did like a Secret Sky Festival where it was like a bunch of musicians basically live streamed their set. But then he did one where it all took place in VR, and there was like a sound stage, and so it was like he was performing, but people could walk around in VR and interact with the other people that were attending the concert.
That's cool.
Which is it's
like
such
that.
a cool experience, and maybe that's the way that GBWC needs to go.
Yeah, almost like kind of creating a sort of themed metaverse component.
Yeah,
Where it's like, there's a way to communicate with others, and it's through a metaverse component. But
that does seem to be the direction they're going. But I have to point this out, is like, I think that no matter how good technology gets and how awesome these experiences and the merch and those things can be, at the end of the day, I think that people really make the difference when it comes to these attractions, when it comes to theme parks and stuff. And one of the reasons that VR has not taken off in that regard is because there's no human component to it that can replace, like, and the memory's so vivid because, like, my wife and I were there in the Tower of Terror, and the guy that was running the set and was wearing the hotel lobby, the
usher.
elevator, the usher uniform. When he was narrating to us and saying like, oh, I need you guys to sign all these waivers and stuff like that, and then right before he dropped us, he was like, okay, guys, there's 3 things I need you all to remember before we start. First, make sure you keep your hands inside. Second, do this. And then 3, and he hit the button without saying what the third thing was, and just like, and you can tell that like he so much loves that job and is so underappreciated. I guarantee you he's underpaid, but like that's the kind of thing that makes the experience really magical.
You know what? I think that's learning from you and all that. That's kind of related to like a game master in a tabletop, because it's almost like setting the experience. They kind of have the insight into what's going on, setting the experience up. And I think, and that also reminds me of, I think it's been a while, but my company would do like the virtual, puzzle rooms, trap rooms. What are they called?
Oh yeah, escape rooms. Yeah,
escape rooms. There you go. And then there would be someone on there, and sometimes they can add to it, or sometimes they might be boring and be like, "Nope, that's not it." And So good start of the show, because I was gonna say with that shirt. Over the weekend, I found an awesome Mickey shirt, and I could have worn it. It's kind of funny. I got it. It's just a square in the center with the profile of Mickey's face, and there's Japanese letters on the side.
Oh, that's cool.
It could be offensive language. I don't know, but it's just a cool shirt. So, yeah.
Honestly, I think that you need more Japanese themed Gundam Explained merch.
Oh, that is a great idea. And it's crazy because everything has been Japanese themed for me. In fact, when I bought that Mickey shirt that was Japanese themed, I also bought a Zombie Samurai shirt because I started getting rid of all my graphic tees because I like wear these all the time. And I was like, I need some more graphic tees. But also, I've been playing Rise of the Ronin, and I've nearly beat it, but then Assassin's Creed Shadows dropped, and I've been playing that.
Okay, so you did put down Rise of the Ronin for Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, and it's funny, they are very different games for seeming like they're similar. I would say Rise of the Ronin is like playing an open world Metal Gear Revengeance. Let's look at it that way. And then Assassin's Creed is that, typical kind of, it has survival elements in an open world. So they're different enough. And it's neat because the combat in Assassin's Creed is slower paced. So the animations look super realistic. Whereas in Rise of the Ninja or Rise of the Ronin, it's all about fast-paced character action.
It's snappy and responsive. It's such a hard balance to strike when it comes to video games. And bringing it full circle into Gundam, one of the things that's constantly debated is what kind of gameplay feels like Gundam. Because to some people, that's GBO2. It's kind of like a mech sim. It's a little slower, a little bit more deliberate in your movements. To other people, it's more like, no, I want Gundam Versus. I want to be able to zip around in the air and do all these like crazy combos and things like that. And so finding that balance between the two can be very tricky.
And you know what I think might be a smart forward approach? A lot of these things I think require planning, and I think for these big corporations, they do plan, but then they change them all the time. And I think Warner Bros. Is a good example where sometimes they don't commit to something, and so then they just move on, and it's like, but what I think would be neat if Bandai did was made the different AUs different genres. Because I would see Seed be more of the fast-paced, like shooter, and then make the UC stuff very tanky, games. Even though they have the Zeta stuff, and that could be, its own thing. But I think you could even go, like, what if they grabbed Double O and then just made that more of a like a team tactical game, just because it's all about the teams and their different loadouts, Yeah, I think. Anyway,
no, I think that's.
Always could talk about these video games.
Absolutely.
Can't wait for that Seed one in May.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun port.
Well, speaking of Seed, I know that I've let you down recently, but I've made other people happy that I'm like so into the Mighty Strike. I'm going to do a screen share. So I posted this picture in the Discord, but from left to right, we have the Master Grade EX with the third party. Oh, what is it called? The White Slash. It's the one that Taco and Yoshi got for the Proud Defender. And then there's the Blu-ray limited edition exclusive clear sparkle color Mighty Strike. And then we have the SD one at the bottom. And then one that just came out in Japan is the Metal Robot Spirits Mighty Strike Freedom and Proud Defender add-on pack, which
sweet.
I was just lucky that Ami had one pre-owned because they sold out initially when they went up for pre-order. And then I have the Chigoken, and then below the Chigoken is the Mobile Suit Ensemble. And I think I've kind of figured out what I'm being drawn to. And I relate it to, and I think you could understand this, seasons of TV shows when they come out and it sets what it is, but then after a while they kind of have to go an extreme. And I am seeing this is like Kunio's Okawara.
Yeah.
I feel like this is his refined extreme design. It's like it's kind of a refined Universal Century type Gundam, but with the Seed aesthetics of being a little more slim and jaggy, even though he doesn't necessarily draw them fully slim. They kind of get interpreted that way in the show. But then everything that has to do with his touch of that mechanical, the panels are just in the right places to make it look like a machine. And lastly, I'm a fan of mobile suits that are mostly white, but also gold, because I feel like that's like crazy. Like there's no reason, for
it's just ostentatious. Like
and I think it's one of the least durable metals. You wouldn't make something gold for armor purposes. So anyway.
But it is highly electrically conductive.
Oh,
So maybe
because of the later powers that it does.
That could be it.
Yeah, that's
a
really good point.
Conduct electricity.
And in fact, what's really cool about the Proud Defender is it came with the whole like that electrical thing that happens. So I'll cover that in the review.
Nice.
But also I want to like almost self-analyze.
Okay.
Right before getting into this, there was a lot of like Godzillas. And then right before this, there's a lot of Batmans. You see how and then before I think there's like X-Men or Wolverine or something. It's that vibe.
Street Fighter.
What's that?
And Street Fighter. I remember you. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's that vibe thing where I feel like a thing represents a lot to me that makes me excited. Like I tell you, the past 2 weeks, I've just been building and building. And so I feel like, sometimes someone might be like, man, are you obsessed? What? But it's like, wow, no, I found some fun that I can like focus on. And I feel like it's almost studying because I now have a very vivid understanding of the sort of layout of the Seed Freedom, like, or the Strike, Mighty
Strike Freedom.
Yeah. I got all these names. And so this kind of goes into what my next plan is. Out of all these, what we don't see yet that I still have is the standard high grade release.
Yeah, what you're really missing is some justice in there.
Ah,
Is
okay.
so
See,
so
I'm
what
afraid
what
that's what's gonna happen next.
what you're telling me is that I need to collect every variation of Justice, Infinite Justice Spec 2,
There
just
you
so
go.
that I can, because I do feel sometimes that you and I are the yin to each other's yang. And
I
it's
know
like
it's
you
weird.
like a white mobile suit. I
Yeah,
like zero white on my mobile suits. Like
that's cool. It's interesting because I feel like for as much as we have in common within our bubble, we have our extreme differences, and I think that's very
yeah.
interesting. It will okay, so then to go kind of to that's funny that you're saying how you don't want any white because what I'm going to do is and to let you all know your video that you dropped that was a surprise
Oh,
yesterday before the stream with the using the magic eraser type sponge
yeah.
for so many different techniques. One that is awesome is painting, and some people might not realize that you can get a good surface area at a good coating. So I'm going to take my high grade Mighty Strike, and I am going to replace anything that's not red with white.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna get some real type markings, but I think I wanna go with something from the '08 MS team to kind of really sell more of that UC look.
Yeah, I'm digging that.
And if anyone ever checks out the Gundam Breaker uh, channel in the Gundam Explained server, Santo Bell has posted some builds that he does that actually look cool, and they have that aesthetic I like, where it's mainly white, has a little bit of gold, a little bit of red. Um, yeah, just it's interesting how much I don't care about the pilot. Like at the end of the day, that's the thing. Like I do not care about the character Kira at all. Yet,
No, and
I, oh
go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't know how much I like the granddaddy because I like Amuro.
That's what I was just about to
Okay.
kind of
Yeah.
speculate on, is maybe we've been thinking about Seed all wrong, is that the characters in Seed are the Gundams, not the
Yeah,
pilots.
not the yeah.
Like, because that's one of the things that I would think about is like, nobody kind of, I mean, I don't want to say nobody, but like compared to the amount of people that cosplay as Char or Amuro or Shiro, for that matter, like
Yeah.
UC characters tend to be pretty iconic.
Right.
But when it comes to Seed, I mean, obviously, like everyone jokes about Kira, and obviously Atherin has his fans, but like, really, it's the Gundams. Like, we like the Gundams.
I think so. And I think that is I think my reaction to the first Seed show. I wanted to watch it all the way through. I loved the music. Loved watching the fighting, but I didn't care about the characters, and I think I like that then I can find that enjoyment. So we get this obsession here where then I have all these strike freedoms. But again, I think it's uh, I think it's the way I consume art.
Hmm.
Like when I see a form, a design I really like, I like to like engross myself in it and like
Well,
get the
it's like
essence of it.
when you find a song you like, do you find
Uh-huh.
yourself like listening to it over and over and over until you get tired of it?
Sure do. I-
Yeah.
In fact, what I try to do is if I find a song I like, I try to find more that might be maybe from that artist or from that game or from that style. That way, I'm not doing that to me. You know what I mean? Because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why I went a whole year, 2024, listening to just Castlevania music because there's so many soundtracks. Never got tired of it. Anyway, glad I got to get this off my chest. This was a lot of fun with the Mighty Strikes. More to come. There'll be some videos.
I can't wait
Um,
to see your next obsession.
right? What is it gonna be?
Man, we should
Yeah.
we should do like a we should do like what do you call it? When people bet on
Oh, like a bingo?
like a pool,
Oh,
something
pool.
like that.
There you
Yeah.
go. Not a yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like of what would it be? Because it might not be Gundam related. It might be
No,
some
that's what's most exciting because
yeah.
it was like Castlevania there for a while,
Yeah,
like you said.
exactly. That's another good example. Like, I
I mean,
wonder
you made that Richter Belmont figure that
yeah.
was
So, very good point there because I was so obsessed that I made a custom figure of stuff I learned from using Gunpla. So, that's kinda cool, like, narrowing in on the things you like and the hobbies you like, and then you can kinda cross them. Well, an
absolutely.
example, I just got this. This just got released. It's the Godzilla vs. Biollante 4K Criterion. Now I know
Nice.
I had been talking about Godzilla, and I bought the 4Ks from Europe or whatever, and they
Yeah.
do that AI upscaling. Do you remember we're talking about that? And I was like, the AI upscaling looks weird in some places, but some places it looks good because they take the film grain. I think you explained it that way. Well,
Yeah.
this is the opposite. This is like where the film grain looks amazing because it's so grainy. But so it's very interesting to think that there could be two different ways you could upscale something. Make the dirt as dirty as possible, or smooth it all out where it looks very good, but then some close-ups sometimes, or some not necessarily close-ups, but some human faces sometimes will look odd depending on the depth of field. That's the only thing, but that Mantis release wasn't necessarily like an official. This is official Criterion, so it's very good quality. It even has an English commentary by a
Really?
historian of Godzilla, which that's exciting. So
How does someone become a Godzilla historian? Like, I just imagine one of those like A&E documentary series where it's like, they've got the lower thirds bar that says like Godzilla historian.
dude,
It's like, well,
dude, we need to make some video called Zeta, a retrospective. And it's just you and I talking about Zeta, and it says Zeta historian, Zeta professional, Zeta expert. Why not?
exactly.
That might be a good idea. We talk about our favorite things, themes, blah, blah, blah. And then we shoot it like studio professional.
Well, I mean, like I said, my wife and I had been watching Ancient Aliens, and she realized that guy, what's his name? The Greek guy.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But she was like, wait a second. Like, he's got like a bachelor's degree in like journalism. Like he's not like a PhD in anything. He's not, and it's like, well, yeah, how do you have like an upper level doctorate degree in, I believe, aliens?
Yeah.
Like, there's no like credentialism around that. And so it's like you kind of get to create your own credentials, which is kind of cool. Like,
it is. I think that is interesting to think about, like being an expert in something, which, I don't know if I told you about this. Chris Williamson?
yeah.
The guy.
Yeah, Chris Williamson, Modern Wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw his podcast today.
Oh, I missed it. No.
It was great. A lady that was on there, I was listening to it. It's a behavioral person, like about how to be on camera.
Oh,
how
interesting.
to act, and it was very interesting hearing all these things. I want to bring it up because I feel like people should go and check that out. I think it will make you feel more comfortable, being on camera or talking and it's funny that I brought this up because I don't know why. But just letting you know, I think it's one of those things when we're just talking randomly, and I'm like, "Hey, Steven, check this out."
Well, and honestly, people should check out Chris Williams.
Yeah, no, really.
His interview style is very good because he tends to just let people speak, and then he does his homework on them, and his questions are, I'm going to read you a quote of something you said. I want you to explain it to me.
Right.
Like
and what helps is it's almost like the question he asks or his follow-ups are always very, I guess to explain the inverse, when an interviewee says something interesting and the interviewer then goes to the next question.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a minute. Let's unpack this.
Yeah. Let's hover on that thought because there's probably some more.
Yeah. So he does a good job of that. Anyway, maybe I need to meet up with him and that behavioral psychologist about, look at my mighty strikes and just say something about me.
Tell me exactly what it is that's going on.
Is it the nub
manifesting?
Is it the nub over there? Was it the panel lining? No, I don't know. Okay, well, speaking of nubs we'll be working on in the future, that sounded odd, but let me get back to this.
You keep your nubs to yourself, sir.
Okay, that was good. So yeah, Bandai announced the oh my gosh, I'm trying to get to the top of it. Okay, the Rebin Wolf AoZ reboot version, which it's always awesome to get this style of kit because it's like you don't expect it, but then when you look at all the AoZ kits, it's like, oh, okay, well,
yeah.
These
AoZ fans are eating good lately, right? Like between the Hyzax,
yeah,
and just the sheer number of of wound wart accessories and things. Like,
I know. I mean, even between Metal Robot Spirits and P Bandai, it's almost like they've almost got it all covered. Almost. The inlay, is that the giant one?
yeah,
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Although I think someone shared, didn't they share like someone made a scratch build inlay or something? Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah. Okay, so from this, let's see, dynamic articulation. Okay, gimmicks for action poses. Let's see, mono eyes adjustable. We expect that. I don't know if it's got too much crazy stuff. I think it looks awesome. The colors on it look awesome. One thing you brought up when we were talking was the add-on backpack of a Dovenwolf.
Yeah, I love that it is actually compatible with existing UC kits. So, like, this is one of the things that I wish that more high grades did, which is like as new high grades come out, they should to some extent be compatible with some other existing high grades. A perfect example would be like, remember Ricky Hoskins, who won last year's Hobbytown model contest, local to me. He did it with a Origin Zuda, which is he took the high grade Zuda and put Zaku Origin type legs on it, and then made them high mobility. So like,
that's cool.
But you can't do that with like everything, right? So it's just
know.
nice that this was designed with that in mind, like knowing that it is a variant of the Doven Wolf, Rebin Wolf, making them compatible like that.
Yeah, and I think that is the takeaway here is it's cool that the kind of gimmick that's going on is kind of an in-universe thing.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
I think it seems smart to make it where all the mobile suits have all interchangeable parts, but I guess in-universe canon-wise, that wouldn't necessarily be the case. So what could be? And a lot of the AoZ stuff does that, and we see that with the kits, so they do that. But that okay, so let me ask you. I know the Psycho Gundam Mark II is an instant buy, but is this an instant buy?
I mean, for me, not really.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is one of those things that looks to me, it looks like, if I were being honest, it looks like a full armor Graze from IBO.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, because to me, it's not necessarily Gundam-y. I even think
Yeah.
having the green colors on it kind of takes away from the Advances Zeta aesthetic, but I know they did that with these machines anyway. They have a few more
Right.
like that, so.
I mean, the paint scheme is probably the thing I love the most about it, but
Yeah.
still, I think that the design,
It's not
just like everything with AoZ, it just doesn't quite fit in the UC.
right. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
aesthetic.
It's not UC enough for me, but
Exactly.
this is an example of a badass looking robot.
It is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy it as a Gundam, but I'd buy it as like a, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you came across it and it was cheap, but then that's very interesting. Coming across a kit that you wouldn't necessarily buy, but then you buy it. What's the chances of them building it? You wouldn't necessarily buy it, but you get it. Because I think that can happen sometimes. You might be like, well, I should have this. And then,
but why? But why should I have it?
yeah, and then you just don't build it,
Well, it's funny, like, because I pre-ordered the Desultor, from Mercury, like the P Bandai Desultor.
Oh, yeah, because that would be very out of norm for you, but I guess you just like the look.
Man, that design is just so awesome. It looks like an ODST Halo armor,
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah, that is cool how those things, we come across those things every once in a while. So, okay, let's actually look at the Rebin Wolf real quick. Just kind of curious about it. Was developed by Xeon Mars, so this is a Xeon Mars suit. That adds more context to its kind of unique look.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the shields do have that RF, like kind of like the RF Zaku and the RF Goof.
Yeah. So that's, I did not consider the Mars thing, but okay. More than a dozen units were produced and transported aboard the Chester Junior Earth Deployment Fleet, also known as the Chester Space Fleet. However, by the time they arrived in the Earth's sphere, an internal conflict had erupted within Neo-Zeon. As a result, the units were never delivered and were instead sent back to Mars. Upon their return, they found Mars under the control of a hostile Zeon remnant faction known as Re-Zeon with no safe harbor. The fleet proceeded with the planetary descent operation, deploying the units as the main force in the Phobos spaceport battle. Damn, that sounds awesome. This needs to be an anime.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if I may, just slight tangent.
Yeah.
When I first started streaming, Gundam 5e tabletop Gundam games, I came up with like a late UC story, and the enemy faction, the bad guy faction, was known as the Re-Sleeves. And everyone thought it was hilarious, and they were like, "This is stupid. Why would they call them?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, but Rebawu, Regelgu, like Re-Zeon." Nobody bats an eye when it's any of those things, but then I add a re to the beginning of sleeves, and it's wow. That sounds
that's kind of weird. But I wonder if it's like sometimes maybe in context of what it is, and people don't realize. Oh, well,
yeah,
I guess. But real quick, did I? Okay, I have this thing that's supposed to pop up when like a super chat comes in on this new thing I'm using, but
fancy.
Not that I got a super chat, but that the preview.
Well, someone should test it out.
Yeah, I was testing it out, and I left the preview up. But
no, I mean someone watching should test it out.
Oh, yes, please. And I need to test that 4 digits can fit in before the decimal place. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Okay. Next thing, real quick. Anyway, it was real cool to learn more about this Rebin Wolf because I've never really paid attention to that specifically.
And I love that kind of history where it's like, it was supposed to be delivered and then it got, intercepted. Like it's just one of those. I guess we'll never know.
Well, yeah, that made me think about like an intro to a movie where you have these guys, going aboard. Where do they say they went to with, and then wherever it happened, and then they sent the suits back.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of like it's like a quick intro, and then they're like, "Oh, we got to get back to Mars," but then they get back and find out that I guess that Zeon faction kind of took over, and then like it's neat because it would be something way outside, although they've done that before, the Char and Amuro legacy, but during that period.
Yeah.
Even if they made callbacks to like, Titans and getting the gas from Jupiter. And I would love to hear more logistics because they didn't use, they didn't have the technology of warping.
Yeah. They don't do like FTL travel. So we're talking about like months in space.
But I did read something, and I don't remember if I brought it up in my video, that sometimes that these ships would have the certain type of that magnetic coating, the static electric coating that helps reduce the drag. But, they'd be in space. So I guess it's the drag of between the planets, the gravity.
Possibly so. Yeah. That'd be interesting. Let's revisit that next week. I've got my my Gundam RPG manual that has like the distances and the travel times for those, because that would be an interesting thing to kind of try and do a little forensic work about what the timing of would they have been like ships in the night, like the Jupiterus passing.
Yeah. That's what I think
on their way back
what
to
was
Mars.
going on in that lane, if there was a lane. Does that become more of a Jupiter sphere? Because then it's very fascinating stuff. Okay. Oh, space drag from the solar winds. Thanks, Jamkel X. That's what it was. Okay. Which is interesting. Like, I love that they can explain it, and I love that they didn't decide to just use warp technology.
Yeah.
And they have to explain that, it does take a while. I love that stuff. Okay. So another little model kit thing I wanted to show you guys is this Batman model kit. So for those, just listening, you might not be able to see it, but it is the Batman from the beginning of the Flash movie, where it was Ben Affleck, but in like a gray and blue on the motorcycle. I'm a big fan of Batman, and I like the Ben Affleck, but they don't have an action. There is a Todd McFarlane action figure, but I'm not into those as much. Yeah. So this was a full-on model kit. I built it.
What brand?
I don't have the box. It's a Chinese manufacturer. I've never heard of
Okay.
them. So no one that I think we'd recognize. But what's interesting is you would build the whole action figure. You don't need to paint it, and I might be able to see, but like he's already painted and it already has like
Yeah, I was gonna
gold.
say the colors on it look fantastic.
Yeah, and even like where you see the armor on the chest, see the and the legs. Those are like rubber pieces that wrap around and plug in, so it gives it that depth. Um, this was so fun to build. It was just like building Gunpla. And what's also cool is it came with like an accessories tray where you don't have to build the head. He comes with like action figure quality, multiple heads with faces, multiple
Nice.
hands, the guns, batarangs. He even has it in the grapnel gun. You could put in a little wire in the grappling hook. They went all out.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah, I do like the idea of building my action figures because I almost feel like again, it's like I get more into the process of it, I guess.
I do feel like more modern model kits have that more action figure quality.
Yeah.
They feel a little bit more sturdy, like
Yeah, I think so too. Even the Lunamaria that I built, because I find it interesting that they have this to build, but they have Kira to buy, or the Shin. I would get a Shin to buy. They have an action figure of them.
yeah.
Stuff is fun. So it's like for me, it's not necessarily about building a robot. It's just the building in general, and it's just I like robots. So yeah, that comes in. But actually, on both of these, another little thing I wanted to show is this stand that I found on Amazon. I need to link this to you guys. I have a lot of action figure stands, Gunpla stands. I've never been able to find the best one. I think this is the best one. Probably not master grade unless it's a smaller master grade, just because of the size of the base and if it has weight. But what you do is it comes with, I think it's like 3 different poles at 3 different lengths. So you can kind of get a height you want. It comes with screws and a screwdriver to screw it on. It even comes with a peg that fits in any high grade Gunpla
Wow.
master grade. And then it even comes with 2 different types of claws to use, like if you wanted to do that. And there's something like, so this base here is thicker and stronger than a typical, I don't have one near me, like Bandai Act base. Like this is sturdy and thick. The same with this. And, I've always talked about you want good bases for your stuff. You don't want it to fall, break, or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'll get the link out to you guys for this, but check Amazon, third-party stands.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you think, so this is kind of a personal question about that. Do you think that because I'm looking for some kind of mechanism to support the Mercurius and V8 that I'm wiring up, do you think I could run wires through that through the arm if I had to?
I feel like you could, because when you put it together,
Yeah.
you're actually putting in the piece that then connects them, and there's a hole before you put in the screw. So maybe you would drill in it.
Yeah.
And then maybe the wire could kind of go around. I don't know.
Interesting.
That would be, but that's actually a good idea of
That's
finding
one
a
of the things that
stand
like action bases lack is the ability to wire up
Yeah.
some kind of electronic component.
So that's probably what needs to be key, is us trying to find the right base for LEDing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's those bigger ones like that come with the metal robot spirits and all that would be able to do that for sure. Like for the Chigoken, I had to drill in to put in the brass tube.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could drill in to put a wire. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing we're going to go to real quick. I'm going to go back to the screen share and switch to in Battle Operation 2, the Denen Zon, which, from F91, which is interesting. I have the robot spirits Denon, but I think there's like different variants. And this is probably like a 2013 release. So this is one of the earlier. It's interesting that in the early robot spirits, they made more obscure mobile suits.
Yeah,
So
that is interesting.
And This one that was
Huh.
piloted by that dude that wanted to get with Cecily, right? I could be wrong, but I think so. Where he gave her the flower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I don't know if I've reviewed these for the channel, but they're
Not to my
older.
knowledge.
They're robot spirits, but they're kind of the older kind.
So for a while, it did seem like robot spirits were more of the, like you said, they would make obscure mobile suits because they knew they weren't going to do a mass release, like a mass market release of a Gunpla.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, we might as well, if we're going to make something, we're going to make it more of a higher end collectible.
Yeah. Just like the Big Zam.
Yeah.
Or there's another thing, kind of being newer to like the Godzilla fandom. There's stuff outside that, like Gamera or Gamera,
Yeah.
however you pronounce that. There's a creature called Legion, and Bandai just came out for the pre-order for the SH Monster Arts Legion, and it's like $400. And then
Oof.
I was watching this news about it. The guy's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe Bandai's doing this. What are they doing?" And I was like, "Well, Big Zam,
Yeah.
you
There
know,
you go.
I think it's what you were kind of saying. Instead of like a model kit, it might be better to make a premium figure, that just has a limited run or something. So those that want it, because I'm a huge fan of F91, like and it's kind of
Someone
like
has
a
to be.
vibe thing. but it really is a vibe thing because I like it. Not I like it outside of Gundam. I just like to know it's a
Yeah.
future Gundam. It's like, oh, that's cool.
And the animation is fantastic. And I mean, it's just so good. Like that early 90s animation, there's just nothing quite like it.
Well, yeah, let me ask you about that. I wonder if when we see 90s animation, we're seeing the height of human ability with hand drawn. And then once we get to CGI, maybe, or once we get to that stuff being done with computers, maybe it's just not as apparent.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's definitely a component of that. I think that there's also I was noticing this because I went back and I started watching some episodes of the original 79 series. And one of the things I've always talked about is like I love how they have these steady shots on characters where it's like
Yeah.
there's no animation happening. It's just like maybe a zoom in or it's like a pan or something like that. And I know that they're doing it for budget reasons. Like obviously they just don't want to animate those frames. And so they resort to various tricks in order to make that work. But what I've noticed is that in modern animation, and what gives it away even more is when you compare it to like G-Quux, is the animation in G-Quux, because it's CGI or like CGI assisted, I should say. Like, they're utilizing digital animation techniques in it. There's a lot of motion going on screen that, this goes back to what I was saying about like kind of feeling motion sick while I was watching it, is when you watch Amuro getting up in the Gundam, it's a very steady shot of like,
Yeah.
he's in the cockpit and it, the camera just kind of pans and rises up. But when Char is in the Gundam in G-Quux, it's jerking around, and even
Right.
though that's more realistic, it doesn't look good. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, because it's almost like a look over here, yet you're missing the artwork because
yeah.
yeah, I can see that. And I
Like
think
too much camera shake in movies nowadays is it can take
yeah,
away from the action.
okay, you brought up something in my mind.
I know I
In
just went
some
on like a huge tangent of like
no, no,
different
no.
bouncing around.
No, this is good. Like the 90s animation, sometimes it's so well done where like it almost looks like it's slow motion, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because I think they are putting so many frames in to sell the impact of what is occurring animation wise.
Right.
And then doing that by hand means there is not like some sort of designated number of frames.
Mhm.
Whereas when the stuff is done in a computer, it's probably, and I don't know, like frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, but when you're drawing by hand, one frame might just be off just a little bit and it gives it this more raw look that can't be
Yeah,
replicated with a computer.
absolutely. And I think that you can sense that in music too. Like when you compare playing an instrument to like putting down a track in Fruity Loops, like obviously everything in Fruity Loops has to be very deliberate and on beat. But there are certain things that you can do with an instrument where you can be intentionally off and like have that swing that goes, and like there's ways that you can program that in different like
But it's
digital
not as
audio.
organic.
What's that?
It's not as organic.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
very good point because as someone that loves to drum, like it's way easier for me to have my electric drum set here and to play that, but it is nothing like playing on an acoustic set. Like it's fine enough for me to play what I want to play, but if I really wanted to like get into the groove with other people and be able to improvise, it's easier with acoustic.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because how easy would it be to improvise like like when you're making electronic music, either it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to make the beat, or what I do sometimes is I click a bunch of different places and then I play it and I'm like, okay, this sounds neat. Okay, I'll move this here, just for some random way to get some sounds. But when you're playing with people live, there's something about like this cohesion of like on the spot you can change something, but then you don't have to think, okay, now how do I reconfigure the track?
Exactly.
Yeah, cool stuff. Yeah, it's about that artwork. Okay, something else that I wanted to show off too. Let me
Oh, I see what you're doing. You're shopping for more Mighty Strikes.
I know. Well, this is a new, and so because I knew you were going to say that, here, RX-78 too. No.
Okay.
But no, so this is a whole new line
Yeah, I
of
see this
figures that are
Block
coming out.
Cross.
They're called Block Cross, and I do kind of like this. So they are kind of like Mobile Suit Ensemble in terms of scale, like they're small, that they're articulated. But what's
I
cool
love
is
the
they have
proportions.
what's that?
I love the proportions.
Yeah, right. Because it's not like super SD, but it's enough to get articulation. So the idea is it's called block cross because you get like this block skeleton, but you can actually move it around however you want. It's fully articulated. And then you put the armor on it. And so they're going to have a few in the line. But this example is supposed to be, you get a bunch of different ones. You can cross their armor, which is pretty cool, to change
Yeah.
armor around. I got to say, I like that. But they're $20 each.
Oof.
Which, I mean, my thought is it could be that they're $20 because these guys are importing them or something, but I'm going to see if maybe it might be cheaper some way to get it in. But I like this kind of thing. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I dig it. I think that obviously it's one of those things where, and we kind of alluded to this yesterday when we were talking about the Gundam card game, where it's like, I like that they've already announced other like additional release dates down the line for the Gundam card game, because you know that there's more things coming. What worries me about something like the Block Cross line is that it's like, okay, so we know that we've got an RX-78. It looks like there was a Musha Gundam, and we've got the Mighty Strike Freedom. It's like, I want to know that,
Beyond that,
that maybe there's a Mark II coming in October, and then maybe like a Tall Geese coming in January, stuff like that, where it's like, I know that there's intent behind this line. You know what I mean?
I do. And it's funny because they look exactly like Mobile Suit Ensemble. So I hope that then it doesn't stop. I don't know, because I don't know if I get them. I don't really care. But again, this is kind of like, how am I nice about saying this? It's kind of like junk toys. It's like, I don't need this, but it's fun just to have around and play and all that. Like, but they do have a Justice there.
I see that.
Is that Infinite or Immortal? Okay, I don't feel bad.
I think that's the Infinite, because the Immortal kind of has like a different chest shape.
Okay.
Now that might be the Spec 2 Infinite.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because if they're going to do the Mighty Strike, then
yeah, if they're doing the Mighty Strike, yeah, that's probably so weird that they don't have a Zaku here. Or I wonder if that has to do with the interchangeability. Would they really make it that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
And I could go off on such a tangent about that, but suffice to say, yeah, I think that there's probably something about the silhouette that is not compatible with these Gundams.
Yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, yeah, that's just a cool new thing. April 26th. You
Yeah.
know, well, so
Now
that
these
brings up
can
something else. Oh,
can
what's
I
up?
ask a question? The block cross figures, is it only Gundam or are there other franchises involved with this? Because that would be an
Oh,
interesting, like it seems like block cross is
like a
branded.
brand.
Yeah. Kirinmaru? Kirinmaru?
Oh, yeah, look at this.
So there you go. So this isn't like
Oh, a new line. This is like a set they're coming out for a line that already exists. That's like a branded. Pretty neat. I might check this out anyway. You know what? It's funny. This reminds me a lot of, and I've talked about it before, like the Mobile Suit Ensemble. But when I was a kid at the Walmart, the the gumball machine, I got my first robot and built it, and
yeah.
like that's what these kind of remind me of. Yeah, I really like that. Well, cool. So, it's good that you brought that up at the end because I didn't consider that.
Yeah, I mean, it only just occurred to me like, wait a second, this seems like a bigger, because it would be like having a Lego expansion of Gundam.
Right. Yeah. It's like what? Yeah. Which they could do. Oh yeah. That reminded me. Do I have it up? Yes, I do. I I'm glad I've been saving some links. So GI Joe, and I guess it's sold out now. They sell a mech, and it's for the 6-inch line of figures, which is really awesome.
Yeah,
And it's only $75, which seems like a good deal. I don't really collect these, but I feel like I would get a GI Joe mech, and it has. I don't know if they're articulated fingers, but it has like hands, and I like that about a robot weapon.
it's pretty cool.
Um,
You know, it reminds me of like the hardballer from Lost Planet.
oh yeah, yeah, exactly. That's cool that you're able to name check that hardballer. Not many people would be able to do that.
Yeah, I don't remember if they have ever actually said it in the game.
Yeah, I don't think so. The only way I knew it is because I had the figure. Like they had a special figure that you could buy for like it might have came with a special edition, but I just bought it off eBay.
Nice.
Back in
Yeah,
the
I have
day.
like the art book that came with the book with the
Oh,
game,
yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, that's a cool one. I always feel like, yeah, Lost Planet, definitely a good idea for they need to continue with that.
yeah,
Wait a minute. Didn't Capcom recently just say that they were going to be making another game for one of their older IPs?
I think they did hint at that.
And I was thinking Dino Crisis just because of I think they, but I wonder if it could be Lost Planet because I think it makes sense if they wanted to kind of revisit the first one, even the second one with the co-op aspect. If they could do it in a
That
way
was so
that,
good.
yeah, because one thing I don't think many people got to experience with Lost Planet 2 is the combiner level when you're in space and you can
Yeah,
combine two mechs. And
oh, it's so awesome.
yeah, I know. And I didn't know I could do that until I saw a video. And so then, I went back and followed the thing to do it. And I was like, dude, this is it's interesting to think sometimes late game of a game can be an experience that, people don't experience. Oh, I can't believe this jumped in my head. So Front Mission has a third-person shooter game. It's not like the tactical ones. I think it's called
Yeah.
Front Mission Evolved.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I've played through it and beat it. Did you too?
No, I watched the gameplay and I was like, I could get down on
Okay.
this. This is pretty sweet.
Well, because it plays like a sweet, cool mech game. Nothing
Yeah.
amazing, but the end game is like insane mech on mech combat constantly. Like I remember when I beat it, I was telling my brother, "You need to play this game just to beat the last boss." Like, um, yeah,
Which that kind of goes against your normal approach to games where it's like once you've played through enough of it, it's like, okay, I'm done. Like I don't need to finish the game. Like Lost Planet is one of those titles, and it sounds like Front Mission, at least the third person shooter version, these are the type of games where it's like, no, you really have to play the entire thing to be able to judge whether or not you like the game or not.
You know what? With Front Mission, it's one of those where the reviews make sense because the initial gameplay loop is pretty simple. There's nothing
Yeah.
to it. But it's the type of game that I like. This is like, okay, it's straightforward action. I can have fun with it. But it's that last boss that then But see, I don't know if most people would be willing to sit through its sort of basic gameplay, and the level design too isn't the hottest. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's almost like you're just going through Xbox 360 textures, and it's like, where am I? Yeah. So, um, okay. Okay. Another thing. Yeah, we got about 5 more minutes. So yesterday, oh yeah, just yesterday on your show, like near the end or at one point, and I'm glad you brought it up. You brought up the Psycho Gundam Mark II because I completely forgot
Yeah.
we could be getting it any day now. So other than that, are there other Gunpla releases coming out soon that we're waiting for? I know that the Puru 2, right?
Oh yeah.
That it's a Gunpla person.
Yeah.
Make
Yeah.
it, but
Figurize.
because it's double Zeta, or because it's what it represents, I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And you said you were probably going to get that backpack thing that goes on the Zgok from Seed Freedom, right?
Oh, that's right. The
What is it even
Caprid
called?
or something. It has a C and an F and an R in it and a D. I know. Cadillac Corvette.
Sure.
Yeah. Dude, I am so glad you brought that up because I want to get that in the Zagok, and that's actually being shipped.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mightily spent my budget a month, so I'm gonna have to wait a little bit. But I so want to get that. Actually, is that one that you?
No, no. Is it bad to say that like the only Gunpla that I'm really excited about? There's a couple of P Bandais, and then of course the Psycho Mark II. But it's like I'm almost more excited for the Gundam Assemble figures that are coming
Yeah.
with the cards. Like,
No, that dude, I get it. Well, that's the thing. I think there comes a point in a Gundam collector's life, I guess, where it's not that. Oh, the Cavalier. Thank you. It's not that you aren't excited. I guess it's more of there's so much exciting that's actually already there.
yeah, yeah. It's like I think, and we've talked about this when it comes to video games. It's like you become much more discerning and discriminating about what you really want to spend your time building. Is like you're not going to go out and buy every kit. I think somebody posted, who was it? Oh man, I remember somebody posted an article that was like, "Wait a minute, how can you tell me that like spending $600 on airbrush equipment is going to help save me money on Gunpla?" And it's like, "Oh, because I used to spend $2,000 a year just buying kits, snapping them and putting them on a shelf. Now every kit that I spend time with takes more time because I'm painting it, because I'm customizing it, because I'm detailing it. And so the overall is that you're spending less money on Gunpla because you're putting more into every kit instead of just snapping them really quick and throwing them out." Like, and I think there's something to that. I think
I
that
think there
model
is.
kits are not meant to be just snapped and thrown aside. Like I think that
Yep, right.
we get in that collector habit, right?
Yeah, I think there is something very real about snapping a kit together real quick,
Hmm.
especially when I'm
Oh,
just sitting
thank
there.
you, Artie. It was Artie who posted it. Yeah.
Oh, what's that?
Artie in chat just said that it was from a book that she posted.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because it's like when like I feel like there's a therapeuticness, to that snap build, and maybe that's fine. But yeah, the idea of taking your time with it, because I feel like your time focusing on something is like a well spent currency,
Yeah.
and you don't really get too many times to do that, and it's kind of hard sometimes because how many times can you really sit there and focus on something long term? Like for instance, video games. I play a lot of video games, but I usually only do it in up to an hour interval because I can quickly be like, okay, I've had enough. And
Yes.
then usually I'll go to like, start a build or, whatever other hobby I'm working on.
But like you said, like there's some video games that you'll pour 70 hours into, and then there's some that you'll play 35 minutes, and then you're like, "Ah, I'm good."
Yeah, and it's crazy how that stuff works, and it's crazy and I love how personal it is sometimes. Like, who else is really gonna spend, what, 30 hours on Godzilla PS3 and then 40 plus already on PS4, and I still haven't gotten the trophy yet. I'm doing the same thing over and over. Like, I love finding other people's personal things they do. Like the fact of what you're doing with those wing kits.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
never hear anyone talk about doing something like that. It's a very specific and cool, part of the hobby. That's always fun to find.
I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that's about it, guys. That's it for this episode. That was a lot of fun. I guess it's nice to have some links to pull up, to talk about some stuff. I mean, it's a lot of that stuff is stuff to buy. I don't think I can do it all, but I got to say, if I was going to get one thing from everything we showed, that would be really hard because it's all very different. But maybe that G.I. Joe mech.
That one is pretty sweet.
Yeah, just because it's kind of different. Maybe I can throw in my Wolverine into the mech.
I was gonna say, aren't the Gundam, the GMG figures that scale?
No, actually, that's what's crazy. This is 6-inch, or the this is for 6-inch scale, which is huge. That's why I thought 75 was pretty good.
Wow, yeah. Huh.
Yeah, that's very cool. But anyway, again, thanks for watching. We'll be back next week. And again, check, both Steven and I had drops this week. So if you haven't got your Gundam fill in, there's some cool content from lore to like hobby how-to stuff. So
yeah, and an excellent review of the Gundam XX.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Really cool, badass looking combined space fighter. You guys got to check that out. But all right, we're going to head out. So all have a good weekend. We'll talk later.
Cheers.